Now with all the latest stories making the headlines this afternoon, it's the ITV Lunchtime News.
Good afternoon, I'm Faye Barker. Russian forces have targeted Ukraine's port city of Odessa. Smoke could be seen billowing from an oil storage facility after 5 or 6 explosions were heard this morning. Russia later confirmed it attacked the facility from the air. It comes after Ukraine confirmed its forces had retaken the entire region around the capital, Kiev. But what they're finding is shocking. Bodies of civilians, some with their hands tied, have been found in mass graves and lying in the streets. It's caused international outrage and a flood of fresh accusations of Russian war crimes. Lewis Warner reports.
The smoke clouds rising above Odessa are a sign that the war is coming to this city. Until now, it has largely been unscathed by the conflict, but Russia is refocusing its efforts on the east and the south. It's feared these explosions could be the first of many.
Every Russian missile that hits our cities and every bomb dropped on our people, on our children, only adds black paint to how history will describe those responsible. The Ukrainian character cannot be conquered by any pressure or violence.
In the wake of the Russian withdrawal, Ukrainian troops are clearing the streets north of Kyiv. Here, the fighting may not be over forever, but it is seemingly on hold. Along the way, soldiers clear barricades and inspect suspicious objects, conscious of what dangers Russian forces may have intentionally left behind. In Bucha, Ukrainian officials say they found yet more evidence of war crimes. Troops discovered some streets littered with the bodies of people they say have been tortured and executed. It's thought one man died when a Russian tank drove over his car while he was still inside.
He was a resident. He worked in landscaping, a peaceful, honest person, a smart man who loved to work, and they simply, shamelessly, and in full knowledge, crushed him to death.
In Mariupol, fresh efforts are underway to evacuate civilians. Today, a Red Cross convoy will try travelling to the besieged city for the 4th time after being forced to turn around. This morning, the Russian Defence Ministry shared this footage of what it says is attack helicopters destroying hidden Ukrainian positions. More than a month into the invasion, the focus of this war appears to be shifting. Ukraine might have saved its capital, but the war is not nearing its end. Lewis Warner, ITV News.
Alongside the death and destruction on the streets of Ukraine, there is also a war of information. Russians crossing into neighbouring Estonia have told us of the difficulty of speaking openly about what Moscow's called its special military operation. Our correspondent Rupert Eveling spoke to some of those heading into the border city of Narva.
The crossing between the Estonian city of Narva and Russia is called the Friendship Bridge, but right now it feels anything but. A steady stream of traffic waits to cross. Trade with Russia continues, but drivers must be patient. On the streets of the Russian town of Ivangorod, life seems normal. But is it? As they entered Estonia, we asked Russian people what they make of the war in Ukraine. A question that for some elicits a careful response.
I cannot really answer you freely everything what you want to ask me. And we cannot really, unfortunately, in this world, we cannot have a clean, clear conversation these days.
Anton Naumov is a Russian actor. He claims he is better placed to understand the story of Ukraine as he can access news from both sides.
I can see two opinions.
Yeah.
Besides, people from, for example, in here, they don't have Russian television, they don't have Russian channels on YouTube, so they can see only one side of this situation.
Criticising Putin's war in Russia carries risks, but a Ukrainian woman fleeing the country told us it happens behind closed doors. Does anybody talk about what we think the reality is of Ukraine? Sure, but it all happens in the family at home. We hear things about the war, but the Russians do not believe this. They say they see different things on TV. Russian is the language of the border city of Narva, which is barely 100 metres from Russia itself. Narva isn't just geographically close to Russia on the other side of the river there. It's more than that. 90% of the people here speak Russian, and it's an uncomfortable truth that some of those feel closer to the Kremlin than they do to the EU.
Не хочу ссылаться именно там политиков, но утром смотрел все новости.
Igor tells me he doesn't want to lie or mess with politics, but he's seen news about American bioweapons in Ukraine, and despite facts provided by Russia, the US, he says, denies it. This is a Russian narrative which many older people here buy into. It is evidence of how propaganda on both sides of this river shapes opinions. Whether inside or physically close to Russia, the information war is a battle in itself. Rupert Evelyn, ITV News, Narva, Estonia.
The UK could massively scale up its nuclear power capability over the next 3 decades, according to Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng. He told The Telegraph that 6 or 7 new and bigger stations could be built by 2050 in a bid to ramp up our homegrown energy supply. The government's energy security strategy is expected to be unveiled on Thursday. Conservative MP David Warburton has been suspended from the parliamentary party pending an investigation into allegations about his conduct. He denies any wrongdoing. And England's cricketers have failed to retain the Women's World Cup title. The team was beaten by a formidable Australian side by 71 runs. It was a disappointing end for England, who had managed to reach the final despite losing their first 3 games. We're back at 6 o'clock. Until then, have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Not everywhere will be cold today. Some places will be warm and toasty. Heinz Beans sponsors ITV National Weather.
Hello there, very good afternoon to you. I hope you're having a lovely weekend so far. It certainly was very cold indeed last night, under fairly clear skies. -8 degrees recorded across parts of Wales and Oxfordshire, our coldest night of the season so far for many. But those clear overnight skies translate to some lovely brightness to start the day. A little bit more in the way of cloud bubbling up as we move towards lunchtime, and more significant cloud and rain waiting there towards the north. And that's going to continue to push southwards in the next 12 to 24 hours. Rather more cloud as well generally towards the south as we look ahead to mid-afternoon, but temperatures recovering by 2 or 3 degrees compared to yesterday. As we look ahead to this evening and overnight, those systems continue to move southwards, spreading rain and cloud across the UK, but as a consequence, we are expecting to see a much milder night, for some 15 degrees milder than we saw last night. And no surprise, the best conditions tomorrow will be in the south. That's it. Have a lovely afternoon. Bye-bye.
Heinz Beans sponsors ITV National Weather.
What is more shocking than going to a pop concert and attacking children?
4 of us went to the concert that night and 3 of us came home. That's not normal.
I did have quite a happy childhood, so I assumed that that was what the world was like.
People have choices to kill 22 people or not to kill 22 people.
Worlds collide. The Manchester bombing. Monday the 11th and Thursday the 14th of April on ITV and ITV Hub.
Feels like home, whatever the weather. Valent Boilers and Heat Pumps sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Hello. Gorgeous start this morning, but seriously cold. Benson down to nearly -8 Celsius. That's the coldest night this spring easily, but temperatures picking up quite nicely, up to double figures in a couple of places. It's a little bit more cloud overhead, but it's a fine and dry end to this weekend. It'll be pretty clear as we head into the first part this evening as well. But cloud amounts are increasing through the night, and by Monday morning we're going to see outbreaks of rain working their way through, and the winds picking up as well, certainly down towards the sort of Dorset, Hampshire, Sussex coastlines. So yeah, not a cold start by any stretch of the imagination, but quite a cloudy and wet and quite a breezy start to the working week. The rain will tend to ease a touch as we head into the afternoon, the cloud hopefully breaking up a little bit too. Temperatures there will be a lot higher across the board, highs of 14, maybe 15 degrees.
Valent sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.